I would pay attention to this, because now this is going to be fun. I want to welcome Sergi Figuerola, the director of IDOSCAD Research Center, who will show us how the physical and digital worlds are merging. I thought you'd be here on stage with me, but instead, Sergi, there's a hyper-realistic version of yourself. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I am delighted to be with you all today. What you see is a graphic representation of myself captured in 3D. It is a solution developed by IDOSCAD called Poly, which is an advanced transportation technology for immersive XR experiences. It can support virtual meetings while delivering affordable, quality, real-time 3D representations of people. So far, we are working to apply this technology to different markets: healthcare, education, and enterprise.
Wow, that's impressive. So when discussing the blurry lines between the physical and digital worlds, which other technologies will be the key?
Well, we are already facing the future impact of 5G and the challenges behind 6G, with the impact of AI and real-time communications. Those technologies will bring new functionalities that will facilitate, for example, the deployment of digital twins to improve mobility, telemedicine, and the vision of Industry 5.0. Moreover, we will also need present location services and configurable networks to quickly respond to emergencies or dynamically adapt to applications needs. See you in the real world.
See you in the real world, indeed, Sergi Figuerola. We are expecting him here on stage, and we are willing to hear more about this. Thank you.
Good. Perfect. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Basically, the idea today is that you come out from this room with some learnings about what 6G is. I know that maybe some of you have only heard about the word 6G, so the idea is that you understand where we are moving forward and where the future is going to. Well, what I would say, welcome to the future of connectivity. So this is a new age, and we have to be ready, right? So this is a picture that maybe some of you have already seen several times. I mean, the idea is that we are evolving in technologies. We are moving from the analog, digital, the entrance of mobile data, mobile broadband, when we had the expansion with the 4G technology, 5G, and we have 6G in the end. 6G, what you can see there is that the full integration of AI technologies into the communications. Basically, another important thing that you can see from this picture is the fact that every 10 years there is a new technology. So every 10 years there is new opportunity for companies, for people, for services, and this is something that we have to pay real attention. Then, I really particularly like this picture. Why? Because we can see the scenario of where we were with 4G, clear picture on type of performance, what type of performances we had on 4G, for example, that we could have 10 gigabits. Now we are jumping into terabits with 5G, peak data of 100 megabits jumping to 10 gigabytes, and this is the evolution that we have had on 5G. And then if we go to the next picture, we can see what's 5G within the ecosystem of 6G. So again, we are improving the performance. It's a jump. It's a quality jump, right? But the idea is that if you compare from the 4G to what's going to come in 2030, 2031 in 6G, is a huge change. That will change many things, right? Then, what's 6G? And I think that for those of you that are visionary, that are dreamers, we have a real thing, which is the integration of the digital world together with the physical world and the virtual world. And this is a big challenge, because so far what we have now is these three worlds are not integrated, all of them. And another important thing here is you can see in the middle that what we have is a new human interface. So now, for example, when I am asking you, what's the interface that you are using to talk with the technology? It's the same interface that you have been using for the last 30 years, which is the keyboard. And the keyboard has not changed. It has the same keyboards, it's the same size, everything is the same. So there will be a new change in this evolution that we will have new interfaces for this communication. And then another important thing is that we are talking about the network of convergence. And what does it mean, convergence? It means that we are converging in terms of computing and communications. It means that we are converging also in terms of telecom convergence, from satellites to terrestrial networks, and also the fact that we are converging into the physical and into the digital, right? And this is the global understanding of 6G. And this is the big picture that you have to understand when someone is telling you What's 6G? It's the full digital twin in real time. Sometimes I like to put an example. For those of you that have seen the film of Ready Player One from Steven Spielberg, this is what we saw 10 years ago, and it's what will come in 10 years' time, which is the full integration of yourself in a virtual world, and you will be able to manage this by means of digital technologies. Good. Well, this is a picture that obviously maybe is not so attractive, but what I want to give with this picture, the picture is the fact that with 6G, we are enhancing some of the performances that we already had or have with 5G, plus including some other functionalities. And the ITU is already working on the process of these are the ones that will work into the standards that we are planning. So it means that there is a plan, there is a roadmap, and there is a work to be done. We had a set of functionalities that have been achieved now in 5G, and when I say now, it's now. It's not 3 years ago, it's not 4 years ago, it's not 2 years ago, even though that your phone was saying 5G. It's now that we have all this full set of technologies. And with 6G, we are targeting many other technologies, which means many other opportunities, any other chances for entrepreneurs, for research centers, for those that really want to make the jump into the new world. OK, let me put this into the map. This 5G, 6G. There was a mistake in 5G. The mistake that was in 5G is that it was planned. When we talk about technology, there are two elements, which are the radio and the core technologies. The mistake was that it was approved to put the standards in difference on time. What does it mean? It means that 5G was coming in 3 different standards, and when you had 5G in your phone, you only had high bandwidth. That's all. And we have been selling 5G like the technology that is changing the world. But it's not been until this release, the release 18, I would say, which was the beginning of 2024, that we had the whole functionalities of 5G in place, which means that it's from this year that we can have new applications. So in the past, we only had more capacity. What does it mean? It means that people were a bit complaining, like, why do I have to pay more for more capacity? But since there were not all the functionalities, you could not deploy new applications. So you could not have an extra service for the one that you want to pay more. So now, the plan is from now to the next year, from the coming years, is where 5G has to experiment all these new functionalities, and new developers can use these new technologies. And then we are jumping into 6G. And 6G, the global agreement that it's been put in place, is that all the standards will come at once. So there will not be just different phases of the technology, because they have realized that has been a fail in 5G, because they have not mismatched the expectations of the users, not from the industry either. So it will be a change, and this is the learning process that you have when you're putting technology into place. So 2031, many years from now, but we are going that way. Why I say we are going that way? Because we have been working on 6G for 4 years now, 5 years, I would say. So it means that I2CAT has been working for 4 years in research in 6G. This is a very interesting graph, because it shows you what's the problem, I would say, that we have in Europe. And it's globally, too. Check the figures. This is the decreasing value, the incomes that operators are getting for each one of the customers. It's going down. Check this figure there. From now to 2030, it's expected that only there will be an increase of 2% of mobile subscribers. What does it mean? It means that everybody's already subscribed. So that's what some people are burning rest, but some people are dying too, which means that where is the business? And there is a big problem, because if you don't have more subscribers and the costs are reducing, the telecom sector has a big problem here. OK, we have that the IoT connectivities are increasing double, but it's not enough. So it means that there is the need to have a change of paradigm into the telecom sector on the way that they monetize the services. Well, and this is something that we will see in the presentation, which are the, I would say, key challenges that we have in 6G. For example, holographic communications, what you saw before, that I will comment later on in the presentation too. Cooperation between robots, augmented reality everywhere, space integration of communications, so there will be full integration from space and terrestrial networks, and also real-time digital twins. But the good thing is that everything is under the scope of sustainability, and this is a big change. So the targets are more social, I would say. rather technological, because we want to work on which is the social progress that the technology is facilitating, the economic development too, and which is the environment impact that this technology might have. Besides this, there will be different verticals, some that we are already working on 5G that will be enhanced with 6G, but things working in agriculture, on wearables, on critical services. So there will be a bunch of services that will be this completion. But understanding that what I told you before about the performance, so those type of services will be real time. And when I'm saying real time, I'm saying that there would be 0.2, 0.1 milliseconds. And this is changing the paradigm of communications. Well, coming back to the slide that I commented you before about the problem that we have nowadays with the telecom sector, the bridge is how we are able to integrate connectivity with an application. Why? Because the business nowadays is on the OTTs, let's say Amazon's, Google's, Facebook's, etc., but not in the telecom ecosystem. So there is a big challenge here. And what are the targets that are being worked out? Is the fact that we have to see how we monetize the infrastructure and how we expose this. And this is a big challenge. And the challenge is that in 6G, we have to monetize from day one. Because as I said, in 5G, there has been a big problem on telecom industry because they have invested a lot and they are not monetizing the infrastructure, not the services. Then there will be a full automation. This is called zero touch. So it means that all the process in the telecom sector will be automatized by means of AI. It's amazing, the change, and also will change in the manpower and the implications it has with people. Then there will be all the cloud native applications. And this is a big change also, because it will change the way that we understand how we are moving from one technology to another. And then in the end is the network evolution. But these are the things that we will be seeing in the near future. Then, what are the architectural trends, I would say? My talk is more talking about the telecom sector, right? So what we are seeing is the fact that we are moving from hardware to software. And this is happening, which means that we are having lots of opportunities for companies that want to start building their proper solution that before was only provided by hardware. That's true that you might not have the same performance, but do you need the same performance? Not always. So it means that with the fact of virtualization of the network functions, we are changing the paradigm. Many new startups, many new companies are developing new technology that by means of software is providing the same services that we had with hardware. And then we have a set, I would say, of systems, management systems, that we are entering the open source community. And this is a big change, because it used to be a closed community. So we have opportunities here. Let me put an example. For example, we created Spin-Off, which is a startup. It was 4 years ago. It was the first spin-off startup on 5G private networks in Spain. And this is something that has happened in Spain, and in Catalonia, and in Barcelona, which is good. So it means that we are at the edge of technology. Another driver, what's happening also? Which are the other players that have a big problem nowadays? These are ones that fact that Nokia, Ericsson, Huawei, etc. Why? Because there is a movement from vertical integration to disaggregated technology. What does it mean? It means that for the years being, we had one box. You didn't know what that box was doing, and you didn't have any chance to talk to this box, because it was closed. So now we are going into a solution where you have different pieces from different vendors. What does it mean? That startups, that other companies are starting to jump into the cake of those players. This is changing the world again, and it's changing the dynamics. Indeed, that is not that easy, because before we had one proprietary vendor with one, I would say, one data model. Now we are working with different data models. There has to be APIs that understand each other. There needs to be a standard. They have to talk. SLAs are complex, but again, it's an opportunity for new companies to jump into a market that before was closed. So it's a big change. New startups, and we have to create here in Tech City too, one of these startups, which is very important, this movement. Then, another challenge. What's happening? It happens that telecom infrastructures, we are moving to a concept which means network as a service. What does it mean, network as a service? It means that now the applications, those that were developing applications, I would put all the players that we have, were limited by the characteristics of the infrastructure, because the infrastructure could not change, which means that my application cannot be elastic, because it's limited by the fact that an operator is giving an infrastructure. We are changing the game. with 6G, with 5G and 6G. What's the game? It's the game that now the infrastructure can be flexible and can be adapted to the application. It means that the application can be elastic, can grow, can change. It means that you are opening the mind to those people that they are not limited anymore for a physical infrastructure. And this is a big change, again. Why? Because there will be an expansion of people that will create new types of applications that we don't even know. Why? Because they can start asking some parameters that before they could not ask, and they can change some parameters of the network. And why it happens? It happens because the network infrastructure, they have to monetize their infrastructure because they are losing money. So they are opening their APIs, and they are allowing third parties to enter the infrastructure. But it can only happen if there is an agreement. It's an agreement that all the operators make this at the same time. Why? Because if I am a bank and I want to provide a new application for my sector, I want to be sure that all my customers that I don't know they are in Telefónica, in Vodafone, or Orange have the service. So here is the Camara, which is a global alliance managed by the GSMA, that it's putting in agreement all the operators to be sure that whenever a new API is deployed, all the operators have this API, which means that an international, I would say, company or whoever, independently to whom is providing the service to this user, they will be able to provide the service. And here I want to, maybe some of you have seen this. I am extremely happy about this achievement. It took us more than a year to work on that, but it was presented last week. It was in the news that MasOrange, Telefónica, and Vodafone Group has agreed to create an innovation lab on Open Gateway, which is the largest and the main initiative of the GSMA, those that are doing the Congress in Barcelona once a year, on creating this lab towards setting up innovation into the APIs. This is something that somehow is managed in closed scenarios in GSMA, but this is the first lab in Europe, and it has created movement. And we are here to change things, not just to see how others are changing. And this is the proposal that we have in I2CAT. So this agreement is really complex, extremely complex, because those people on the table, they are not talking about technologies, they are talking about business. And we are now seeing which are the business that we will see in the future. And believe me that things are changing radically, because we will see applications that really knows everything of a user, because the user has the phone. So they will have information about everything. Big change. Then, other things that are changing, AI. AI is going into everything into a network. So AI is the key driver. I mean, you listen AI everywhere. So it's networks for AI and AI for networks. Big change in that part. An example, here I put beam management. Now you have an antenna. An antenna is spreading the signal. Now we will have smaller beams with more capacity, and you will be able to move the beam of the antenna following the user and providing a specific set of characteristics to this user. This is challenging, because you are changing things that before you couldn't change. You are managing radio signals. Well, it's extremely amazing. Network telecommunications, integration of telecom infrastructures with non-terrestrial networks. Big change too. For example, here we have Starlink, a space mobile. One thing that is curious and is going to happen is that Starlink is working in non-standard technologies. They are proprietary. But let's think about this. Now Tesla is putting a mobile. They will compete with the manufacturers of mobile phones. So we have the same person which is owning the infrastructure and is owning the phone. And this has never changed before. And this is changing a bit the concept, because whenever you buy a phone from Tesla, you will be connected to the network of Starlink, which has the same owner. So let's think about what could happen in the future. But it means that people will take control about everything. Then we have also integration about sensoring and communications, which is a technical detail, but it's very much interesting about the ISAC. So we have many developments. And now that I was talking about the telecom, let me talk also about this use case. I mean, it's a company that we have been working for the last 3 years. It's a Catalan, a startup. It's the first worldwide company putting a constellation on narrowband IoT, which is a technology which is compliant with 3GPP, which is compliant with the 5G, which is compliant with what the operators telecommunications have, which is different from a Starlink. So it's a change. And they have managed to capture around 40 million euros in the last month. So it's a company that's here. So it's changing. So again, In Catalonia, we created the first spin-off on 5G private networks, the first constellation on narrowband IoT. So there was a guy that some time ago said that Catalans make things. Yeah, we make things and we make impact. Anyway, some other cases that I want to explain you what we are working in terms of an I2CAT. This is an example of a solution that with one unique drone and putting a base station into this drone, we are able to monitor the phones and to identify the position of the phone, only with one drone. Now you were needing different drones in order to make a triangulation. With one drone, you can do this. And you are not limited for the operator you are working. So we are not working with the signals of the operators. We are working with the signals of the phone that are needed to attach to the operator. So this is a big change also. Think this on, for example, on the mountains, on the winter, in those people that are hiking, and they have a problem, and there is a rescue, and you can identify a phone even if it's under the snow. So there are big challenges that are coming here, and this is technology that we are patenting and putting into the market. This is another technology that we are doing, and this is amazing too. It's also intelligent, reconfigurable surfaces. What does it mean? Look at this picture. It means that I will be putting some of these elements into the glass of the windows, and it can go outside or can go inside the buildings, and I will be able to manage the flows of the communications. So it means that I will be able to say that, hey, this signal has to follow this car, because I am providing this type of services. So you will be able to change the configuration of the screen of this building, which is a mirror, which is a glass. Now maybe it's opaque, but can be also translucent. And you will be able to change the movement of the different frequencies. This is a big change. And it can happen also inside the building, which means that you can limit that the signals of your phone are not going out from the space that you are, from the meeting room, or from the building you are. So this is pure changing the technology schema that we have nowadays. Another one that we are working, I told you before about the digital twin, but if I want to have a digital twin of myself, which means that I have in a laptop something that is monitoring myself, and I am running myself in a virtual environment, what does it mean? It means that I want to see that if I put myself in this virtual environment, I want to see how my body will behave. I can analyze this by means of the digital twin. So this type of technology means that you have to work with type of technology that you can put in the gastric, that can follow you on your gastric elements, or you can put in the cardiovascular, which means that are nanosensors. So we are working with terahertz, trying to identify what's the position of the nanosensor that you have in the body, which means that this sensor will have other parameters, and I will be able to calculate the speed of the flow of the blood, well, many different elements. But then there will be a digital representation of you, your body, and what's happening with you. And this is technology. And you would say, what is with telecommunications? Because you have a nanosensor. A nanosensor is smaller than a grain of rice. It's just, I mean, it's, I would say a bit more than a grain of sand, right? But technology is there. And we have to use this technology. Then another one, the last one that I put as example, is about satellite. So with I2CAT, we're ambitious. And we have put different satellites together with partners. But maybe you heard about Enxaneta. It was the first mission that the Catalan government put into place. From I2CAT, we led the strategy of new space in Catalonia, and we created all these teams to go ahead with this. Then we put the Minairo. The Minairo is going into business, into business. It's operational now, which means that we're working with Satellite here. There is the first narrowband IoT technology demonstrator. And we will be presenting soon, but we will also put a lab into the space, right? And here, the challenge here is the fact that this is a CubeSat. This is a technology we're putting. These satellites, they are like a box of shoes, really small. We can put state-of-the-art. And we are putting technology like flexible payload, that we can change the type of payload. Payload is the functionality that the satellite needs to develop on real time. And this is changing, because you can put a satellite now. When you put a satellite, it's there for ages, and you cannot change anything. But now we can change things on the satellites. And we are developing also the simulation systems in order to see what is the orbit. So it's lots of technology again. And if you think what I told you before about putting things into software, all the telecommunications things that now you have big boxes, you can reduce them and put them on FPGA, which means that we can reduce technology and optimize its use and maximize the impact. Well, to finish, you saw me at the beginning of the session, my representation here, right? So this is Volum is a coming startup spin-off that we are working from the company, right? That we want to facilitate holoportation for XR applications. What we want, I mean, there are systems that need lots of cameras, really expensive, not affordable for everybody. But this is going to happen. I mean, in the future, as I said before, the human interface is changing, right? So it means that we will have video conferences in 3D. Why? Because there will be several people participating on meetings. Or we will have people in the room that will be holoportation of these persons. So you will not know exactly they are together or not together, but you will see like they are together. And what we are trying to do here is to see how we are making an affordable system. So something that can be used for normal companies, for those that want to develop new applications. But we have done a benchmarking, and the idea is that we want to go from 2,000K to 20K. This is a big change, which means 1 less. And we will make this technology more affordable. Indeed, it will not have the highest super quality, but this is not the goal either. The goal either is to establish a new system of communications. And here we are working on capture, on transform to point cloud objects, on the encoding part, the transmission, and the decode, and the render. And we will be offering this service in a box. So there will be new type of applications that we consider, because we will see really the fact that you will be interacting with a person, or you will have a different type of interaction with the ecosystem. Well, that's all. I've been a bit fast. I am targeting at the time that I had, which is very good. But the idea is that be ready, because change is coming. And what I said is that the step forward is the fact that it's going to come a more connected, intelligent, and inclusive world. And technology is for this purpose. So technology is only a means. Let's work on the impact and the business models that we have behind, because we have lots of opportunities. Thank you very much.